up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Christian Agent Podcast. I am your host, Garrett Maroon. I'm so glad to be with you today. And I've got one of my friends who's back from the very beginning when we started this podcast in 2021. It was called Real Estate Your Way. And then I hired a coach and he said, that's a terrible name. So we changed it. And now it's the Christian Agent. But Belle Tunstall is with me. She's a CNU, Christopher Newport University alum like myself. So it's fun to get back in the studio with her. And I don't have a studio. That just makes me sound cool. I feel like I listen to podcasts, Belle, right? And they're like, I got so-and-so in the studio with me. I'm like, I don't have a studio. Like, this is just my office and my kids' stuff is everywhere. But it made me feel good about myself. Anyway, so Belle's back. I'm excited that she's back. She's got a lot to share with you. And Belle went off from CNU and made a life for herself. And me, I'm still trying to figure that out. So Belle, we're proud of you as CNU alum, but I'm super glad that you're here. Christian Agents, as always, if you haven't joined the free school, SKOOL, Serving Not Selling, where I teach Christian agents how to sell 3 to 4 homes a month, please check that out in the show notes. And if you have joined, invite some friends. We want to serve and help all Christian agents be more excellent in what they do. And I'd love to see you in that space. Belle comes today. She's part of the Redux Group, which is one of the largest real estate teams in all of EXP. She's one of, if not maybe the top agent, Belle, sells 60, 70, 80 homes a year. She absolutely crushes it and has been a faithful member of the Faithful Agent community, is one of our speakers at the upcoming Faithful Agent Retreat. Go check it out, faithfulagent.com/conference. Super excited for that. But Belle, before I let you say anything, because this is my show, that sounded meaner than I meant it to. Let me read you this joke. Let's see if this is funny, Belle. I haven't read it yet. A Jewish rabbi and a Catholic priest were good friends. At a picnic one day, the priest was eating a ham sandwich. You know, he said to his friend, this ham sandwich is delicious. I know you're not supposed to eat ham, but I don't understand why such a good thing would be forbidden. When will you break down and try it? To which the rabbi replied, at your wedding? What?
I don't get it.
Am I missing something? That doesn't make sense. You see,
break down.
There's no way to salvage that. Okay, well.
Only up from here.
That's so bad, Belle. That's so bad. Okay, well, Belle, I'm glad that you're back. Yes. You probably aren't, but do a quick introduction of yourself, my friend, and we will dive right in.
Sure, yeah. So I born and raised in Northern Virginia. I went to CNU, studied psychology, played field hockey for years, and then had like a year-long job right out of college at CNU as like a admissions officer. And so it was easy sales. It was kind of an introduction to sales. Like, of course, the school I love and know everything to, I'll sell it to anybody, anyone with ears and eyes, like anyone who has a pulse. And so, yeah, I did that for a year. And then so Chris Craddock, who's the owner of the Redux Group, I've known him since I was 14. So he was my youth pastor. And so just really good family friends. And he had started a team, but Garrett and I were talking just before, hopping on here, and like real estate just wasn't trendy, like it is now. There was no Selling Sunset. There were no $1 million listing. I think HGTV was like just starting out. Essentially. And so, Chris was just giving me every sales pitch, trying to get me to be a realtor. I was like, this is so random. No one I know is a realtor. And I'm just going to go into another kind of sales job. And so anyways, I kind of kicked the can down for, about a year while I still had my job. And I just wasn't feeling any peace at all. I knew it was just not going to be satisfying. And, I feel like my calling, I just kept feeling like I like people. I just want to serve people. That's what I, kind of felt on my heart, like in that year of 2015, 16. But I'm like, what job is that? Like, I'm like, how will that pay the bills and all these student loans that I'm about to have? And so anyway, so Chris used every sales tactic on me that I now use with some people, eventually set the appointment, told me all about real estate. And so, yeah, I got licensed. I was 23. I got licensed August of 2016, and I'm now in my 9th year. And it's just been a wild ride. I mean, I think the Lord has just provided so much. I think, I feel, there's seasons for everything. So sometimes it's an up season, a down season, a boring season. And I've just seen that, I feel like we hear and read all the time, like the Lord's plans for you are, way more than you could ever imagine. Want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. But I mean, truly, I really felt like from a young age, I had written off so much, not like of my life, but I just really didn't think, I wasn't very successful in school. I didn't make the best grades, could do like 10 pull-ups and could climb the rope and do that mile Monday. Like best believe athletics, I had it down, but I just felt I was not really confident with school and all of that. And so I feel like at a young age, I was like, okay, well, I'll get married and everything will be provided for me. And, I'll just, whatever. That's really what I told myself kind of my whole life. And to the point where I was like, I'll just be a teacher and then eventually stop that because I'll have a family to, take care of and all this stuff. And so it's been crazy seeing how the Lord has just shifted that. And I've just, personally, like I paid off student loans and got eventually got a car and like my house and a rental property. And so he's just provided in so many other ways that truly I could never have written this story ever. And so I just feel like, whether you're in a season that's like kind of painful, like there's purpose to that. I feel like when you're successful and thriving, there's purpose to that. And so it's just been really cool to like surrender to the Lord. And again, I'm not perfect. So of course I'm also a toddler and I kick and scream and have tantrums when things don't go my way. But ultimately looking back on just the last 9 years and all the opportunities that real estate has brought me, and by owning kind of like my own little business and sort of the freedom and shackles that come with that. But yeah, excited to dive into a whole bunch of things with you
Yeah,
today.
no, that's so good. I remember a coach of mine used to always say when it would be, talking about the future or whatever and struggling to see that, whatever I was hoping for would happen.
Yeah.
And I remember him pausing. He said, Garrett, think back 5 years ago. Would you have ever considered that you'd be here now? Right. Or even a year ago, the places that the Lord brings us. It's incredible. Actually, right now, reading through First Chronicles and the story of King David, and there's this moment where King David realizes that he's living in this beautiful house, but the Ark of the Covenant is in this tent. And so he says to Nathan the prophet, he's like, hey, I want to build a nice house for the Ark of the Covenant, right, for the Lord. And so Nathan says, do whatever is on your heart. And then that night, Nathan gets a vision from the Lord and to tell David all these things. So anyway, so Nathan goes back and says to David, you're, essentially, you're not going to build this. In fact, your son is going to build this, right? King Solomon comes along and he builds this awesome temple. Your son's going to build this, and I'm going to establish you and your family forever, right? Basically, the lineage to Christ. Well, then this reaction comes in scripture of David's response to that. And it's this incredible humility from this man who's like, you brought me from being a shepherd boy to now I'm the king, and you made me king over Israel. And now you're saying you're going to, establish my family forever. And my son is going to build you like crazy stuff, right? And you just hear and read the humility in him. And anyways, just made me think about what you're saying is, the Lord has this incredible plan, and we tend to think that it's going to go X, Y, and Z, and we tend to think that that's what it's supposed to do. And when he takes it a different direction, if you're a believer, it's for your good. It's going to turn out for your good, which means more like Christ.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and I love these, right?
Yeah.
More
And I
like
think,
Christ.
yeah. And even when the Lord like brings you somewhere and then maybe that opportunity eventually ends, like dries out or whatever, and then he's going to take you somewhere else. Like just because you're starting one thing in one way, it doesn't necessarily, like it could be right in the moment, but it doesn't mean he's, like that's going to be the next 5-10 years. But
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, I feel like, I don't know, for me, real estate is very emotional, right? You have, again, the high highs, the low lows. You get a client, you get fired by a client. You get under contract, it falls through because of a foundation crack. And I could be dealing with that right now.
That never happened. What are you talking about?
Yeah, they're always perfect. Yeah.
Right, always.
But, I feel like just trying to, I don't know, harness the emotions. And, I feel like allowing, like, of course we all want the Lord to guide us and lead us, and I feel like our emotions can be so fleeting, and so I feel like letting the truth shape your emotions, not letting your emotions shape like the truth, because I feel like it's that's where it can get messy if you're like, well, I feel this way, so that means I'm in a low spell, and so where are you, God? And and then you try to just take it, white knuckle it through. So it's just, but anyway, so I feel like with real estate, it's just every day is different. There's really no 2 days are the same.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so interesting too, because I think when consumers think about real estate agent, they have a perceived conception, right? Whatever that is. We're all super rich and we just look at nice houses all day and whatever.
Yeah.
But there's such a wide expanse of what that is, right? You could be, listen to this, you could be 75 and a grandfather on your third career, whatever, doing it because you just want to help a couple people. It's awesome. You could be a stay-at-home mom trying to figure that out. You could be an 18-year-old getting started today, trying to figure out what in the world is this supposed to be? How do I do it? And it's such a wide picture of who's in this industry. And yet as believers, we have that unity that we all share, right? I don't care if you're new or old or young or old, or it doesn't matter, right? Like we share this same truth and bond that comes from this biblical worldview. And so we might not have had the same the same opportunities or experience in the industry, but we understand, right? Like I can empathize with you when you lose a client because of whatever, and understand how hard it is, not just to lose a client, but for you to remind yourself to lean back on the Lord and trust that this was his purpose, right? Like, cause that's what I deal with every day, whether I'm in real estate or not. As a believer, we're going to struggle with that anyways. And so like, I think it's beautiful that unity that binds us together as Christians, specifically in this industry as well.
Yeah.
You're the one that said, Belle, I think it was after the very first conference, which was literally about 2 years ago
Wow.
today. This was the day after the first conference, which is super cool.
Really?
The day we're recording this. Yeah. March 3rd. So it was March 2nd, it's my birthday. That was day 2 of the event. And so anyway, super cool.
Yeah.
But you're the one that said you felt like your soul finally took a sigh of relief, right? Being in the room surrounded by believers. We just need those things, people who understand in a deeper way. Go ahead. No, please.
Yeah, no, because I stand by it. I mean, even a podcast like this, I think it's nice to find community. I mean, again, as believers, we all need community and we all seek it out, whether it's with church, a Bible study, home group, whatever. But then with work, like, what are you going to do? Just go to work and be a different person, So and again, as realtors, we love our conferences. So it's like, I feel like we're always going to Austin, Vegas,
Sure.
Florida, whatever. And so 2 years ago, I was kind of on my own little like tour, I felt like, because I was doing some teaching. I was invited to speak with the Faithful Agent. I think I had gone to Vegas, which I don't ever need to go there ever again. I'm tired of Vegas.
Seriously.
But
You're not wrong.
yeah, and so it was so much traveling and going to all these different conferences and just hearing different, worldviews and opinions on your business and how you should be grinding or what you should be focusing on, and this, by no mistake, the Faithful Agent, that was my last, like that was the last thing I was attending. And and I remember at times, many times on the stage, like my brain just kind of went flat. I just was so exhausted. And that was honestly, I think that was like really the only profound thing I said, and which is fine. I'll stand by it. I hope that's like the one thing someone remembers is that, as a realtor being in this community, it is a place that you can just show up broken, burnt out, tired, and know that, of course, we'll get some tactics, some business things, but ultimately you're just in a room of, I don't know, 200-300 people that just love and care for you and care for your soul, your salvation, and want to help your walk. Because I think at the end of the day, it's just like that is what makes us all the same. Like we all love the same God, like we're all here for the same purpose, and also we all want to serve our clients. And so I felt like that I was just knocked over the side of the head. I felt like that whole conference, I was like, this is different, but this is amazing. Like I felt like time kind of slowed, and that never happens, so
yeah,
that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2. I think the one you were at was maybe in October. I don't think you came to the Virginia Beach one.
I wish I could have been to all of them.
Yeah, you're not that cool, but
no, I'm not.
That's okay. Next time you can come, and you are, because you're a speaker again. So no, but I all those things, right? And as we try to figure this out, I'm constantly reminded that every house we sell literally will crumble, right? Every client we have will die, and that's not morbidity. It's just like that's just what happens, right? That is what happens, and every dollar we make will fade away, and all of these things. It doesn't mean these are in and of themselves vain pursuits, right? But it does mean that when we are in community with someone who's going to try to pull us towards the world's direction and what the world offers. I mean, think about how the devil tempted Jesus. Here's the world, I can give it to you, right? You just have to worship me, essentially. And that's literally, like the self-help community, and some of that's really good. Don't hear me bash all of it, but this industry of you can have whatever you want, you can build this crazy big life and blah blah blah, and let you see like families broken apart, and you see all this stuff, and it doesn't mean that you can't be super successful and have a great family life. That's absolutely you absolutely can do both, but it's the devil saying, hey, you can have the entire world, and us starting to believe that that's true. And I think we need as believers in general, right, but especially in this industry, for us to say, yeah, but that won't satisfy you, right? I remember a great story. Tyler, who was never on the show anymore. I miss you, buddy. And you're a terrible person, but I forgive you. Well, I don't, because you haven't asked for forgiveness. So you're not forgiven yet. Anyways, he'll never listen to this, Belle. Let's be honest. Okay, so anyway, so I remember Tyler sharing this story. So Tyler was a professional baseball player, right? And pitched for the Baltimore Orioles. And he's sharing the story with me early when we had reconnected. And he says, Garrett, I'm on the mound getting ready to pitch against the New York Yankees. And he says, I'm standing there, and I don't know, he gets the first batter out, whatever. The next batter up is Alex Rodriguez, like, the pinnacle of your career. You're pitching against Alex Rodriguez. You're on the mound on ESPN, whatever. And he said, I had this moment where I stepped off the mound and I thought, thank you, Lord, because if this was all there is, this is nothing, right? And most of us think, if we could do what Belle does and sell that many homes, if we could build a big, massive business, if we could be a professional athlete, like, then I would feel the satisfaction of whatever I've worked towards, X, Y, and Z, fill in the blank. And reality is you won't. Like, you just won't. None of it, right? And praise God that no matter what we do, it's not meant to satisfy. Because if it did, we would love the world even more, and we already struggle with that, right? So we just need each other around. You said early on, pre-show, you said, my purpose is more than being just the realtor who responds in 30 seconds. What do you feel like you've been learning past year, it doesn't matter, over this past year or so, of just your purpose? What does that mean, right? Because you're doing really well in the industry, but that's not all there is. But you must struggle with, like, do I do more? How do I do this? What do you feel like you've been walking through and learning?
Yeah, I think, also the nuance of it is in many ways long gone. I think, my first few years, well, I would say the first like 3 years, I was 23. So I'm doing what every 23-year-olds do,
Of course.
where I'm like just traveling and being on vacation, calling it work, closing a deal every 4 months,
Sure.
and living off of that. And then, so I was just, it was, my business was such a joke. But well, maybe the first like 2 years. And then kind of that third year, so, I started to like climb through like over the years, where it was like 20 some closings, then 30 some closings, and it was COVID and it was 72. So I really, thought it would be 50, and then it went to 72.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then the next year was 80. And so the next year I'm like, okay, 100, here we go. And it was, I think, 65. And then last year was like, I think, 65, then 50. Then last year was 72. But I remember I was so grateful for that, like after the 80, where it was sort of like, okay, I guess I do 100. And then it was like, it was, and again, these numbers are crazy. I'm not like, it was only
Yeah, no, but I hear. Sure. Yeah.
So I'm aware of how obnoxious that kind of sounds, but I'm getting to the point.
I only got 3 Teslas that year, and it was so disappointing. Yeah. No, not at all.
Yeah. So, but I was grateful because I just knew there would be a moment where I was going to fall short of a goal. Right. And I was glad it happened, because it happened. And then that was it, and then I parted ways with, my showing partner at the time. And then the next year, I think, was mostly me, and it was and I did 50. So it just, I kind of had to like break up with that image where, okay, I'm going to do 100 and basically sacrifice my whole life for that. Because I mean, you really reach a point where, I mean, to do 65 plus,
yeah, that's a lot.
It's just such a crazy lifestyle, to be honest. And so anyways, I say all that because it had to happen. And, I didn't necessarily feel like a failure, but I just needed to like face the reality of like, I am only human. I am one person. I have one phone that is my personal and my work. And, I have family. I, want to train for runs and races and things. I want to travel. And so I just started to face and ask the questions of like, I didn't ever believe real estate was all, it wasn't like I was like, is this all there is? It wasn't like
sure.
that, but kind of, it's like I was pouring so much into this career that was in return paying off my student loans. Like I was able to buy a car, and then, buy a property, and then eventually a investment property. But you just, I remember I was at a conference one year, and they were saying, there are 2 things that struck me. They were talking about with your goals, like, do you ever reach like the end zone, or are you always moving back the goalposts? And, and being able to actually celebrate your successes. And also that year they had said something like, is it vacation, or did you just move your office? Like, is your office just now in Florida? Is your office just now in a bachelorette, like on a bachelorette weekend? And so, but I think, and something I still kind of wrestle with, but I think something early on was, okay, well, I'm young and I have the energy and not so many distractions. Like I have to take advantage of this. But I also feel like I want to honor the Lord in what I'm doing. I want to love people and serve people. But also I think it reached a point where I was like, I'm not loving myself. I'm not honoring myself. I'm not growing myself. And so I think headed into this year, we were talking before we started recording, and Garrett had, kind of pulled me aside at, I guess,
Yeah, the last one, which
the
is
last one.
April, yeah, of last year.
Yeah. And I mean, Garrett, you can't hide. So he was just like, "How are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's like, "How are you? Like how is everything? Like, obviously doing a lot of business. Like, how are you?" So I really couldn't BS my way out of any of that. But it kind of got me just talking out loud, and I was just saying certain things of, yeah, I just don't really feel comfortable in silence. Like, I don't even know why I said that, because then I was being held accountable. Garrett was
Be
checking in
careful
on
what you
me.
say around me. That's
I
correct. Yes.
know, I know. Extreme ownership over here. But yeah, so I don't even know why I blurted that. And then he's asking me about it. And then it got me thinking, because I was like, well, why do I always have to have music or, stimuli, or, I can't calm down? And it was just this lifestyle that was so fast. Like, I made no time for myself, made no like quiet time, like just space for even me and the Lord, just to be quiet. And like, because I think Garrett even said something like, well, what's the Lord like saying? I'm like, I have headphones. I don't know. Like,
Mhm.
it's never quiet. How could I ever hear? And so I feel like for a good chunk of my career, it was just this like blasting music, sprinting, grinding. I mean, hundreds of deals
Mhm.
over the years. And I just feel like the nuance really lost its like burn. I mean, to me, January is the worst month, because I mean, December 31st, January 1st, it doesn't matter what you did last year.
Mhm.
The whole scoreboard reads zeros. And that to me is just so sad. I mean, it's like you kind of have to mourn it for a
Yeah,
moment.
right,
I'm like,
right. Sure.
wow, that was great. And now,
Doesn't count. Yeah,
yeah, like it doesn't
congratulations.
matter.
Sure.
It literally doesn't matter what I did last year.
Yeah,
Accolades don't matter. Volume doesn't matter. Like,
yeah.
because,
You
here's the
restart.
new
Yeah.
year. So I started to just feel like the glitz and glamour of it was just fading and pulling back. And, to your point of Tyler's story, I remember, so I had received like an All-American award in my junior year. And I remember senior year, I was like, okay, I could probably go for it again. Like, that would be cool. Our season wasn't as good, but I thought maybe I could get it. I don't know, stats, and but I had also kind of come to peace, like, well, that'd be cool. I hope I do. But if I don't, okay. And I got the email saying that I had gotten it. And I remember reading it and feeling like, wow. And then
Mhm.
literally just like that, in a moment, I was like, and it's literally similar to Tyler. I remember thinking, I'm so glad. Like, I know the Lord, and I know that my
Mhm.
worth isn't in this. Like, it wasn't even a day. It was, I mean, I read the email and
Mhm.
like closed it and was like, okay. And so I feel like same with like real estate and making money and grinding and all that stuff. I mean, you have these wins and then it kind of fades.
Mhm.
So I think for me, it's trying to be comfortable with who I am and like where my strength is coming from, like my foundation. It's not so much like what my past clients say about me, my current clients, like my reviews, because again, those can be good and bad. And I need to be firm in who I know that I am, because ultimately I have to look to the Lord for like my identity check and not look at, what people are saying. Because again, we've also had those moments where a deal is going sideways and you're distracted the whole night, and then it ends up fixing itself, or everything's fine. And then you're like, well, I just lost that whole evening,
Yeah, right. That's
away
right.
from family, the wedding, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's hard, and I appreciate your honesty, because when we're running at a certain speed, right? Really, all of the feedback we're getting is all exterior feedback, right? Like, there's no internal cycle for us to replay what happened, or take the time to think through or pray through. What was that? Was that good? Was it bad? Was it hard? Whatever it was, learn from it. Whatever it was, we're going so fast that we just get these exterior feedbacks, which is, hey, you're selling a lot of homes, you're doing a great job. You're always doing stuff with your kids. You're always, whatever it is, whatever the feedback is, we're just getting it. And so we just keep striving for that, and we go get more. I mean, that's why social media is effective, right? Oh, I got another like, or I got a whatever. I don't know what the terms are, but because I don't get any. Sad. Everybody go like my posts. Okay, so but like, we just have this external feedback, and I think pretty quickly, it's anything. You can train anything. You can train a dog to do whatever if you just give it enough treats, right? It'll eventually just go that direction. You can I don't have any other analogies, but you can train anything to do anything that you want if you just give them what they think they're looking for. And, I feel like in my life, the devil can't deceive me, right? I know the truth. I've been, the Spirit has confirmed that in me, has kept me and will keep me forever, praise God, because I would quickly lose it. But the reality is the devil can't deceive me, but he can distract me, and he can say, hey, I think this is what you want. And then I get it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that was cool. Like whatever. I made a lot of money, or people think I'm really good at whatever. And so I'm going to go do more of that. I'm going to go do more of that. And then the things that I should be pursuing that are God honoring, I don't get that kind of feedback, right? Like for me, if I sit down and I have a really good heart to heart conversation with my son, right? And just tell him how proud I am, and talk to him about whatever it is, right? Like those are the God honoring things. Not that you can't honor the Lord other ways, but
Yeah.
I don't get feedback on that, right? There's no one saying, well done, right? Keep going in that direction. And so it's really easy for us to see, well, it feels like over here, these plants are growing pretty well and they're having a really good time. So I think I'll go do that, as opposed to pausing long enough to say, what is the work that you have for me, right?
Yeah.
There's no, well, you and I aren't the same, right? You and every other person is different. And the Lord's purpose is completely different for you than it is for me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And if we don't stop long enough, then we're just going to go with what the world tells us, because what other feedback are we getting, right?
Yeah, I think too, because also I feel like it was like I was in college, had a little baby job, and then this career. So
Mm,
I feel like I kind of look at it in, broader chapters as well. And I think
mm,
something that I, definitely fall victim to is looking back at like college Belle and thinking, oh, like she was so like holy and pure, and she was
mm,
so, in the word every day, was like mentoring like 10 girls,
mm,
was leading, helping, was in a Bible study, was leading FCA, like all these things. And then with that same tone, I kind of, shame myself now, like, oh, but you're not
mm.
doing enough. You're not. But at the same time, I wasn't paying taxes in college. I
Right,
had a
sure.
meal plan.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a mortgage. And so, there's things that have changed and evolved, but I think it's just those rose colored glasses. And again, to your point of a distraction, I mean, I'm sure the devil is using that as just a way to, well, don't even bother. You're so behind, like you
Mm,
don't even have time. And actually, so I'm really big into running. I'm always training for like a marathon or half marathon. And I remember at one point talking with someone, and they were like, well, why don't you just, I was venting because I just wasn't having enough time for like long runs, because I feel like long runs really cleanse my mind. I feel
mm,
closest to the Lord with like worship music and nature. So that combined, check, I'm running. But I remember at one point being so extreme about it. I was like, I can't, if I don't have time for 6 miles, I'm just not going to run. And they were like, well, just do two. Like, what if you did two really fast, or like as
mm,
fast as you could? And so I feel like that is kind of a pattern for me, where I'm so all in or all not. And so, in the same way, I feel like with the Lord, it's, I feel like a lot of people would relate to, well, oh, I only have a, 2-minute drive, or I'm waiting for my Chick-fil-A order,
mm,
or I'm so tired, I'm just going to go to bed, or I don't have an hour to just do a whole, deep
yeah.
dive into the Old Testament. So
Mm,
then you just write it off. You just don't even do anything.
mm,
And I feel, I mean, there's so much that you could learn with the Lord. I mean, I think for me with church, especially, I was telling you before we were recording, I just go in and put my phone on airplane mode, because things break through my do not disturb intentionally, like for certain work things. And I like the peace that I feel when I'm in there. And again, at first it is uncomfortable. I'm like, is this happening? Is that okay? And then I kind of ease
yeah, yeah.
into it, and I kind of forget. And yeah,
Mm,
I'm in church for a while, but I
mm,
mean, I feel like I'm just such a sponge. Like I feel like the worship feels different, the community, like saying hi to friends afterwards, feels different. And it's
mm,
because in a way I've just kind of shut the door on those external
mm.
distractions.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I struggle with it too, right? It's the art of presence,
Mm,
just being where your feet are is really
yeah.
hard. It just is. I mean, it's easy to blame the phone, and the reality of the phone is I'm looking for distraction, right? I'm looking for a way to not be here and be engaged, right? I
Yeah.
mean, even I forgot to turn off my notifications on my computer, right? And it's like new text
Yeah.
message. Like I don't want to see it,
Yeah.
right? But it's there, and so we're trained, and it's we can blame outside whatever. But I think the reality that I forget too is Scripture literally says the devil is moving to and fro across the earth, looking to devour us, right? And yet I think, oh well, it's okay. I'll do a quick 2-minute prayer and I'll be fine today. And again, I'm with you 1,000%. If that's how your day goes, then just take it when you can get it, right? The Lord and his kindness is with you. But when we don't try to set that aside, or there isn't period of silence, and I'm not good at it either. I mean, I talk a lot, right? And that's why no one listens. And so, but like, I like things happening, right? My buddy said to me the other, or like earlier this week, he came over and we had gone on this guys trip, right? And we went to the mountains and it snowed. And then for some reason, instead of like going skiing or anything, which I've never done before, but instead of going skiing, we sat there and played Settlers of Catan literally all day on Saturday. And like they wanted to sit around and talk. I was like, no, let's play a game. We can talk while we play a game. Let's do something. And he was like, why do you feel like you always have to do something? And he asked me that. This is earlier this week, or this is Monday. So last week. And I stopped and I was like, dude, I don't know. I said, but I think there's a part of it, and I got to figure that out. But I said, I think there's a part of it where like, I'm scared if I just sit still and wonder, like, what have I just been pushing to the side I haven't dealt with?
Yeah.
What is it that, what am I going to realize about myself? Like, maybe I can just keep going fast enough where I never have to pay attention to anything that I don't want to pay attention to. And that's the phone, right? It's the distraction. It's the speed at which we go. It's always needing to have whatever input going on around us or noise or whatever it is, because it can be scary to stop. But I think it's those moments where we are still enough, right? The Lord can speak to us at any point, but still enough where the Lord just, in scripture, right? 1 Samuel, Elijah, I think it's Elijah or Elisha, but I think it's Elijah. He's out in the wilderness. He falls asleep, and then an angel comes and wakes him up and gives him food, which is awesome. And then he goes back to sleep, and then he wakes up again. Anyways, he's walking around the wilderness, right? And I don't remember exactly word for word, but it says, the mountains catch fire or whatever. But the Lord wasn't in that, right? Then it says the hurricane came, but the Lord wasn't in that. And then the lightning came, but the Lord wasn't in that. And then it says something to the effect of like, but the still soft wind came by or whatever, and the Lord was in that. And I just think, man, do we ever even get to that point, right? Or do we, by our own nature and sin, right? Certainly the devil trying to distract us, does he just say, here's more stuff, here's more stuff, here's more stuff. I don't want you to listen to the wind, because if you do, that's where the Lord is. And it's hard. It's hard to stop long enough to say, I've seen the fire, I've seen the lightning, I've seen the hurricane, I've seen all those things, but the Lord wasn't in that. And once it starts to get still, I'm like, okay, I'm bored, I need to go do something. Well, what if that's where the Lord is, right? And so for us to practice stillness, right? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking, I mean, again, for those who are realtors, it's just like you're always going, you're always looking to the next lead, the next call. Like, it's just like this, again, kind of a self-help little hamster wheel. And I feel like there have been moments in my life where I know there are things that I'm dealing with, but I'm just like, I don't have the answers. And I feel like I'm a very productive person and I want to use my time wisely. And so, I've had people over the years that are, if they know I'm upset about something, they're just like, well, you can just sit with your sadness. And I'm like, I don't have time. Like, I don't have time, like, to sit with it. And also, I don't want to. I don't want to look inward. I don't want to know what I've kind of, swept under the rug. And I've also heard that you sweep enough under the rug and eventually you trip over it. So it's like, if you're not dealing with these things as they come up, but again, for us, like, or at least for those listening that are a little bit more extreme, maybe like myself, I feel like it's also, I heard a word a couple weeks ago at church. We were reading through John 11 with like Lazarus' death, and how, Jesus was saying that, this illness doesn't lead to death. Like, it's for the glory of the Lord, which again, he was ill and then he died. Then Jesus rose him. And, but he was saying that, like, through all of that, like, the Lord will be glorified. And I think for me, like, it's been a humbling and comforting word over the last like few weeks or so, just thinking about like the pain in our purpose. There is a purpose to it. And again, like, I'm not to make it all like so sad, because again, there is purpose in your successes, and there is purpose in when you don't get something and when you do get something. But I think just reminding yourself that you will never be faced with like anything, like in or through which like the Lord is not going to use it to like bring glory like to his name. And so I think in times where, so again, I hope to encourage myself and, you and whoever like listening, it's a word to myself, but in those moments where I don't want to look inward, I don't want to journal, I know that something's bothering me, but like, I don't have the answer. So I don't want to think on it because I've already thought on it and I don't know the answer. But I think surrendering it and bringing it to the Lord, and just, that like sense of peace that comes over when maybe for me it is journaling. Like I just, I like to write out things. And so I feel like in that way, it is a very literal way of me writing it out and just like closing my journal and, surrendering it to the Lord. And again, is it fixed in an afternoon? No, probably not. But just that daily surrender of like our anxieties and our worries and things like that, I think has been like really helpful.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a good reminder, definitely, and I have the similar personality. We run full steam ahead and then we run into a wall and then we get up and we're like, oh, that hurt. We just do it again.
Yeah.
There is no like,
Yeah.
I wonder what I should do differently. It's like, I'll
It's
just
like,
do it
that
again.
concussion wasn't so bad.
Yeah,
I'll
right. Yeah, I can do that. I was fine. Is that all you got, wall? Yeah. And I think that for all of us, we're so different. But again, I think the whole point is for you, I love that you said earlier, there's purpose to that, right? At the end of the day, whatever we're going through, there's purpose to that. When you are running too fast and you're doing all these things and you think for a second, wait a minute, I should probably pay attention to the Lord. There's purpose to that too, right? I don't hear me say that the Lord is making a sin. That's not biblical. What I mean is that these things that are going on, the Lord somehow in only the way that he can is orchestrating all of it to have real purpose for those who love him, it to both bring glory to him and to make us more like Christ. I don't know how he does it. Praise God. He's the one in charge because I don't even know what's going to happen in 10 minutes, right? But there's purpose to that. Whatever it is for you, audience, there's purpose to that, right? And we can learn and we can grow and we can encourage each other. So I hope y'all are going to come and hang out with us. Belle and I will be there. Many others will be there for the Faithful Agent Retreat. It'd be just like, if you're not there, which I understand if you can't come, but you being there is a blessing to us, right? Just like we hope us being there is a blessing to you. Being in fellowship with brothers and sisters, we want you there. I want to hang out with whoever's listening to this. I want to spend time with you. I'd love to get to know you. I know Belle the same because we can encourage one another. Why? Because the Spirit lives in all of us and he is much wiser than we could ever be. So Belle, how do they get in touch with you, or how do they follow you, or if they want to learn more, or if they stupidly want to start running, where would they go?
Shamrock Marathon, Virginia Beach, quite local to a lot of people. So Belle, Belle. So I've yet to meet another just Belle, so hopefully it's not too hard to find. But yeah, my name's Belle Tunstall. So Instagram, Facebook, please don't LinkedIn me. I check it once a year. But my Instagram is Buy with Belle. Buy BUI_W_.
Did you say BUI? I think you meant BUY. I'm going to play that back. I think you said BUI, but maybe not. I'll play it back.
It could.
It's BUI, just in case.
BUI. Bye, Belle. Just type in Belle and then TUN, and I think it'll all pop up. So yeah, but I'm an open book, so always happy to chat with newer agents, people with questions, but definitely show up in a couple weeks at the retreat. Would love to chat with anybody.
Thanks, Belle. I appreciate you as always. Christian agents, we love you. I hope we will see you at the retreat. If not, I will see you next week right here on the show.